This is postgraduate student induction, and it's for all of our postgraduate students who are starting in October this year. So I'm Lesley Jones, and I'm the Director of Postgraduate Research for the school. That means that I look after the academic side of postgraduate research, and we have an office, and I'll introduce you to some of the people in the office as well who are going to be here, who will look after the administrative side. And many of you will have met some of the staff in the office on Friday at enrolment. So I'd like to welcome you to Cardiff, for those of you who haven't been here, and to Cardiff University for your research degree. I have to say that I'm going to tell you a few basic facts, but this isn't everything that you need to know. And Amina, who's at the back, would you like to... That's Amina. So Amina runs the office. She's very important. You need to know this. And she has some handouts which she will give you, which will cover some of the lecture material and also codes of practice, which I'll talk about briefly for you, which your supervisors will also receive a copy of. So welcome to Cardiff. Cardiff's actually a great place for those of you who haven't been here before. Some of it's very old. This is the central Norman keep of Cardiff Castle. It's always worth taking a look around Cardiff Castle, actually. The guided tours are great fun if your parents or other family come down. They're very entertaining. You can go and see quite a lot of sport, well worth seeing. But actually, the best price tickets at the opera are cheaper than the lowest price tickets at the International Rugby, and easier to get hold of. However, it should be said that if you just want to go see a rugby match, and you should while you're in Wales, you can go and see the Cardiff Blues for not very much. And they sometimes win. It's a great shopping experience. I think this is a wonderful place. It only opened 2 years ago. And we have fantastic countryside as well. So that's my introduction to Cardiff. So today you're going to hear a little bit about the Research Degrees programme from me. Sarah Brasher, I'm not sure if she's here yet actually, so we might have to change the order a bit, is going to tell you a bit about the graduate college which the university runs, offers a lot of training and other facilities. Bob is going to tell you about the biomedical methods course, which many of you will do this term. Ian Brewis is going to tell you about what we offer centrally, so he's going to talk to you about central biotechnology services which you can access as a student here. And Carl, who's at the back there, is going to talk to you about health and safety. We'll have a coffee break. Then Gareth Davis is going to talk about the Student Support Centre. We're going to have someone from the International Office talk to you. Nicole, who's one of our current students and who's the president of our Postgraduate Society, is going to talk to you about the Postgraduate Society and the Postgraduate Research Day, which she and her colleagues are organising. She's also going to talk to you briefly about the student experience, so from someone who isn't staff but actually doing it. And then I'll take any questions at the end. So that's going to take us most of the morning. Oh, and there's lunch. Okay, so as I said, I'm the Director of Postgraduate Research for the School of Medicine. And these are my contact details. And in particular, if you have academic problems, one of my roles is to try and sort these out. So you shouldn't hesitate. It's actually easiest to get hold of me by email, I have to say. The school is currently undergoing a reorganisation, which some of you may have heard about, but this is the basic reporting line, which I think you should all know about. So the Research Degrees Office supports all research students within the school. And it also liaises with Central University Administration. So they do all our liaison with registry. And it's really quite important that this happens, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to administer many of the functions that we do, particularly enrolment and recruitment. But I have an overseeing role for the academic side of postgraduate research. And I report actually directly to the Dean, Paul Morgan. But I also report to the main management structure of the school executive. Now, the research in the school is divided up into institutes, and the institutes, which I'm going to talk about briefly, cover our main areas of research. So you will all belong to an institute. The institutes are new this year, and they replace our previous research structure. And it's most academics, and hence most students, currently have a home in one or other of the institutes, but for one or two of you it may not yet be clear exactly where your supervisor is going to end up, because some supervisors have interests in academic areas that range over more than one institute. So actually you will also, your supervisor is responsible to the head of the institute in which they're working, and the head of the institute also reports to school executive. Now, for most purposes, this needn't concern you, and actually it will make no difference to what happens to you with your supervisor in your research group on the ground. But just occasionally it's helpful to know what the structures actually are. The Postgraduate Research Degrees Office, some of you will already have been there. It's upstairs on the second floor between A block and B block, the next one over. It does have a label on the door, so you should be able to find it. If you keep going that way along the corridor, it's on your left. And in the office are Amina, who's we introduced before. Sarah, is Sarah in here at the moment? No, okay. Fran, who's at the back here, wave, Fran. Fran will deal with all your monitoring, appraisals, and your final thesis submission. So you need to know who Fran is. And Jo, for those of you who are starting the Masters in Research, Jo is our admin support for the Masters in Research, although she also provides other office support as well. Our aim is to help you to get your PhD, or if you're doing another research degree, to help you to get that. For a PhD, ideally you'd want to get this within 3 years. You will be well aware that most people actually take a bit longer than this. However, we do aim to, if possible, get people to do their work and submit within 3 years. And our appraisal system is geared to help people do that. We also take note of the national guidelines and make sure that we meet national academic standards so that our degrees are on a par with other people's degrees. And when do we help? Well, we can help on the way into the PhD programme, so we can help with the recruitment, so that's not really relevant to most of you here now, but certainly we can provide help during the PhD programme. We provide training, we can guide you to the appropriate training in the graduate college, and we can give you help in completing your PhD programme. And it's our aim to enable you to have the best experience possible and to do the best research possible. So the programme looks like this, and this won't come as any surprise to most of you. You register at the beginning of year 1, so that's where you are now. You do some talk courses. Now the talk courses this year, for most of you, are going to fall into the period before Christmas. So it's going to be relatively intensive, particularly on Mondays, I believe. And Bob's going to talk to you about this. But most of your time will be devoted to your research, which you will organise in collaboration with your supervisory team. You may very well attend meetings. You may, towards the end of the year, actually present your research internally or externally, and we aim for all students to do this, certainly by the second year of their PhD. At the end of the first year, so for you, if you're starting on the 1st of October, on the 31st of July, you will hand in a 2,000-word report if you're doing a PhD or an MD. And that 2,000-word report will consist of a report on what you've done as part of your research. But there will also be a form which will collect details of the training that you've done, talks that you've given, and other research-relevant activity that's gone on. That first year appraisal is very important because students need to go through that in order to continue with their PhD. And it's a good way of picking up problems. It allows you the opportunity to tell your appraisal team whether you think there are any problems. You know, are you getting the help that you need? Do you have the resources that you need? You know, are there any other problems? So it's a great opportunity to actually tell someone about this and get something done about it if possible. The rest of your research will go on for the next couple of years. There is a second and a third year appraisal. The paperwork for this is less onerous, so it tends to be much shorter. but you will basically be asked to provide a brief report, one side of A4 usually, on the work that you've been doing in the past year and a plan of your thesis and a timeline for the submission of that thesis. So we're very keen on getting people through and finished on time with a great piece of research that they can defend at their viva. So this is what we're aiming at down here. We're aiming to get your PhD awarded. So everything we do is really geared to getting your PhD or whatever other research degree you're doing awarded to you in a timely fashion. The appraisal and monitoring, which Fran runs, there's a monthly monitoring, which it doesn't really need to concern you because it's actually returned by your supervisor. They get an email and they have to confirm that they've met you. So it's a good way of just keeping tabs on people. There is a 6-monthly self-assessment. This is confidential. You and your supervisor will file separate reports and they'll go up to the office so you can be frank about any problems you're having. And then there's the first year appraisal. As I said, you produce a 2,000-word report, timetable, research plan, an outline of your thesis, you know, the question you're looking at, your aims, your hypothesis, etc. There's an appraisal with a panel of 3 academics in the school. At least one of them will have some academic knowledge of the area of science you're working in. And the outcomes are yes, maybe, and no. We virtually never have a no. So basically the answers are generally yes and maybe. And if there's a maybe, usually there's a specific list of actions that need to be taken, not necessarily by the students, sometimes by the supervisors, in order to come back and get a yes, please carry on, i.e. a progression. And the problem with that can be, you know, minor or more major, but our aim is to put it right. If you put it right at the end of the first year, generally students will be fine. And I have to say that I have a slightly skewed view of this process because I see the problems, but actually most of our students sail through and have no problems, or very few problems that can't be sorted out without recourse to us. There are a minority of people who do have problems, and if you have problems, I would say don't sit on it. Do something about it as early as possible, because you're much more likely to be able to find a solution if you do something about it early. And you don't necessarily have to talk to us. There are various other avenues open to you. And you'll get some feedback from this first year appraisal, as will your supervisors. So as I said, our research is organised into institutes, and you will be in one of these institutes. One of them has a theme of cancer and genetics. That's kind of, well, that's what it's about, but I don't know what its actual title is going to be. The second is experimental medicine. The third, infection, immunity and inflammation, or I3. The fourth is neuroscience and mental health. That's the one that I'm in. And the fifth, public health and primary care. And then there are a couple of cross-cutting institutes. One of them is medical education, and the last is translation, innovation, methods and engagement, the Time Institute. And actually the postgraduate office is in the Time Institute. So the responsibilities of the student. You will find that you have been given a code of practice. You need to read that, sign it, and give it back to the office. Your supervisor will similarly get a code of practice, although that's written for supervisors. They have to sign it and also send it back to the office. The codes of practice for the university are on the website. They're very long, and I'm not convinced that anybody ever reads them. So we've produced a shortened version, which picks up the points that are most relevant to our students here in the School of Medicine. So even though it might actually not, it didn't turn out to be as short as I would have hoped it would have been, but it does detail which things are your responsibilities, and in particular it clarifies areas like attendance, which students often ask about. You should either attend the biomedical research course or fill in an exemption form, which will be available to you. It's a requirement that you attend either the science seminar series, which runs weekly on a Thursday lunchtime, or other seminar series as are relevant to you, because I realise not all of you will be doing bench research, and really the science seminar series is generally most applicable to those people doing bench research, molecular research. But for those of you doing other types of research, for instance, data-driven research, you may find that other research series are more suitable, and it has to be said that nearly all the institutes will have their own research series which will run reasonably regularly. You should aim to be presenting your work in the department, the IRG or elsewhere, and Nicole is going to talk to you briefly about the Postgraduate Research Day, which is on the 11th of November this year, and after your first year, that's a great opportunity to present your work. And it's your responsibility to submit the paperwork in time for appraisal. It has to be said that there's always people that say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do this, but it says it in the handbook, it says it on the website, and it probably says it in the code of practice too. So when things go wrong, there are a number of avenues open to you, and most of this is common sense, but sometimes people just don't do it because they're too worried or frightened to actually go and talk to people about what they think might be going wrong. So you can speak to your friends or your colleagues. We're hoping to institute a scheme whereby we ask students further on in their degree to buddy up with students who are at the beginning, like you. We haven't actually sorted out the details of this yet, but actually one of the most useful sources of advice are people who are actually just further on in their degree than you are. You can speak to your supervisor or co-supervisor. Your supervisor will appoint a mentor, so this will be another member of the academic staff. You can speak to them, and we ask that you do speak to them every 6 months anyway. You can speak to your head of department or institute, and depending what the problem is, you know, different people would be most appropriate to speak to. You can speak to Amina in the PGR office, so you can speak to Amina about anything, and anything you say will be confidential. It won't go beyond the office. And in particular, you should speak to Amina if you have administrative problems, because she can probably get those sorted out relatively quickly, or at least tell you how to go about getting them sorted out. And you should certainly speak to the PGR office if you have any problems that mean that you might have to suspend your studies for a while, and you should do that as soon as you possibly can. You can speak to people on the Research Degrees Committee, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Every institute has a member on the Research Degrees Committee, and so I chair that committee, and we oversee the academic issues surrounding research degrees. And you can speak to me. I am accessible. You probably need to make an appointment, but I am available to be talked to, particularly if you think you have academic problems, then I should be probably the person that you're talking to. And if things get really bad, you can speak to the dean. So the Research Degrees Committee is a committee that's instituted by the university. The school has to have one because it has research students, and we operate to make recommendations to the school management about what we think should happen in the way we offer research degrees. So I'm the chair, and we have members who have different expertises. So Marion Ludgate is in the area of cellular and clinical metabolism. Alan Rees looks after clinical, this is just running out of juice, I think. It looks after clinical research. Anthony Isles looks after the MRC Centre. Donald Fraser is the Wales Clinical Academic Training Scheme representative, and I don't know whether there are any of the Wales Clinical Academic Training Scheme trainees here. Marion Evans looks after clinical epidemiology, public health. Brad Spiller, infection and immunity, he's actually my vice chair. Simon Reed looks after cancer, Phil James, cardiovascular sciences, and Bob, who is the director of biomedical methods and the MROS course, looks after those areas. These people will remain members of the committee for the moment, but we are likely to add some other members to the committee from the institutes, because we don't currently have a very even spread. So, there are one or two quite good articles on research degrees. And I'd recommend these two, written by John Ugal. How to Succeed in Science, parts 1 and 2. So how to think about your research, these articles are. They're very good and quite entertaining, and I'd recommend them. And I'd say good luck. Have a great time in Cardiff. Work hard. But remember, fortune favours the prepared mind. That's from Louis Pasteur. It's no good seeing something really exciting if you don't know it's exciting when you look at it. So you need to be prepared for the outcomes of your experiments. And I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it. So I think that most PhD students expect to work hard, and there's no doubt that well-directed hard work can be incredibly productive. So I would say good luck and have a great time in your studies, whichever of our degrees you're doing.